Hi, my name is Loren Rhoads, and I'm going to read an excerpt from my story, Magic of Fire and Dawn, from the new book, Unsafe Words. She is the one, Your Highness, Morland said as he knelt before the armored man. Artis straightened the necklace on her thin chest before she faced the knight, trying to exude confidence instead of confusion. Her people had never bowed before kings, her father told her, nor would she. Instead of chastising her, the knight unbuckled the chin strap of his antlered helmet. He lifted the helmet from his shoulders and cradled it in the crook of one arm. Unlike Morland, this man had hair as pale as yellow field flowers. With eyes innocent and brown like a deer's, he was as beautiful as any lady Artis had seen at a country fair. She nearly fell into a curtsy out of awe. "So you are Artis, daughter of Sep. Be welcome among my people." She hesitated, her lips wanting to call him Lord. Instead, she answered simply, "Thank you." A diminutive aide with bowed legs scurried up to the blond man and announced, "The horses are ready, Your Majesty." Artis peered at the knight, but he wore no crown and held himself without the rumored arrogance of the English kings. Perhaps he had religious power, she decided. Artis understood little of the native religion. "Let us ride," the knight decreed. He replaced the horn helmet on his head. As the encampment mounted around them, Artis asked Morland, "Where are they going?" He led the way back to his horse. "On the hunt." "In the dark? Me as well?" Morland grabbed her around the waist and hefted her up. Glinting teeth filled his smile. "The dark is the only time to hunt." He leapt up behind her. The horse sprang forward, plunging through the confusion of the camp to stand beside the horned knight. "Are you ready, Fiddler?" his master asked. "Ready, Your Majesty." Morland struck his heels against the horse's ribs. It leapt forward. Artis wished she could tear her skirt so she could straddle the horse, for she feared that she would tumble to her death. She was grateful that Morland's arms circled her. The hunters raced through the trees and regained the road. The horse's hooves struck blue sparks from the stones. Artis was glad it was early summer. Had it been autumn, the forest would surely have caught fire. They slowed at the outskirts of Rushton, where lately Artis's father spent his days smithing. The streets of the village were deserted at this hour. Morland slid off the horse, flung his cape over his shoulders. The waning crescent moon cast his shadow to the street. He drew the fiddle from its wrapping, plucked the strings, and adjusted the tuning. Then, taking his bow, he played the tune that had summoned Artis from her wagon. Once more the music tugged at her feet. Artis clutched the horse's mane, fighting the sorcery. The villagers, however, heeded the violin's call. One by one the townspeople wandered from their beds as if still deep in sleep. In these last hours before dawn, they were probably about to wake with the cock's crow to begin their days. A mournful horn sounded in counterpoint to the violin. The dogs began to whine. The townsfolk woke slowly, rubbing their eyes and shivering in the night air. To Artis, they looked silly in their night bonnets. "Will they come with us dressed like that?" she asked. Playing on, Morland smiled and did not open his eyes. One of the riders whooped, and the horns charged. A woman screamed, clutched her chemise around her, and began to run. The pack swarmed over her. A dog howled in triumph, its muzzle wet and black in the moonlight. Screams and shouts and baying filled the night. The horsemen charged after the fleeing townsfolk. Her throat choked. Artis managed to ask, "You hunt people?" "Those are the damned. They've turned their backs on fairy ways, and fairy on them." Morland put the fiddle away and climbed up behind her. Then he kicked the horse into a gallop. Artis remembered flashes of what followed, incoherent images caught behind her eyelids. A child in a tree, the huntsmen gibbering as they summoned green flame. A proud hound carrying a severed hand in its mouth. The horned knight striding through the underbrush, the sword in his hand streaked with blood, and Morland played the fiddle. For the first time in her life, it no longer mattered to Artis that this was not her homeland, and these were not her people. Whether or not they were damned, she wept for them. As she cried, something feather-like brushed her cheek. She looked upward, seeking a bird. Instead, thick white snowflakes drifted down, melting as they touched her face. Artis shivered as she wiped the tears away. It was early summer. The snow should have been long gone. Her thin shawl captured her body's warmth, but it could not hold it against the wind's increasing bite. My name is Loren Rhoads, and this is an excerpt of my story, The Magic of Fire and Dawn, from the book Unsafe Words. I wanted to thank the San Mateo Public Library for inviting me to read this October.